So this is really important. I want to talk about Kyle Rittenhouse basically winning on this gun charge, but the judge was not, I guess, strong enough to just say, get it out. Yeah. Because I think as a question of law, the judge literally said, there is an exemption for Kyle Rittenhouse. It exists and I can see it. And then he goes, I'll just give the jury the instructions on that one. And it's like, wait, you're the judge. How? So here's the way I put it. Imagine the law says, if you are standing on the street and you cross the street in the middle of the road without using the crosswalk, you are guilty of jaywalking. And then you're sleeping on a bench and a cop walks over and says you're under arrest for jaywalking. As a matter of law, you did not jaywalk.
Correct.
There's no giving that to a jury.
Yeah.
Right. So in this instance, they're going with the affirmative defense of self-defense. And when it comes to the gun charge, there is no affirmative defense of self-defense.
Sure.
But there is you can't charge someone with a crime when they're not subject to that law, when they're specifically carved out. So that being said, there's a provision. First, the law, was it like 948.60 or whatever, states, it's titled a person under the age of 18 carrying a deadly weapon. It says, Section 2A, no person under the age of 18 shall carry a deadly weapon. Of course, an AR-15 is a deadly weapon. And then it says in Section 3C, basically, they must also not be in compliance with these two laws. These two, it's like 29504 or something like that. Long story short, it's very easy to understand. They drafted a law that said if you're under the age of 18, you can't have a deadly weapon. Unless, here are the exceptions. If you are in violation of two different provisions, that you are, one of the provisions is you're hunting and the other is you're under 16. You have to violate both. Why? It's actually really simple. If you are 12 years old and with your dad and he gives you a rifle to go hunting and you are hunting with him, you are not violating the law. If you are 16 and you take your rifle by yourself and carrying it, you are not in violation of the law. If you are under the age of 16, you're now in violation of one of the statutes. And you're not hunting. You're now in violation of both statutes. Mm-hmm. Now the law applies to you. That's specifically what it says. And the judge said, I agree with you, the defense. I'm just going to instruct the jury to that regard. And it's just like, then if you agree, it specifically says this law does not apply to you if you are 16 or 17, then why would the jury even have to answer the question?
Which goes back to my earlier point on the judge trusts in the system. Like he wants to see the system work out. He's coming with good faith. He's believing that the jurors are going to come not under duress, that they're going to understand what he's saying. They are going to be able to understand what he's speaking about the law, and then they will be able to follow through with it. Like this is the meta narrative of the problem that you have here with the entire Kyle Rittenhouse case is you have a judge who is coming in good faith, being played against by both a media or apparatus and an overtly malicious prosecutor.
Oh yeah.
And the question then is what is the recourse? Like, what do you do about that? Yeah.
Did you see there was a point where I can't remember which charge it was. I think it was like second-degree reckless homicide. The judge looked at this prosecutor and said, if the jury comes back with a verdict on that charge and the defense objects, it'll get overturned. It'll get reversed. And the prosecutor was like, what? And the judge was like, I'm telling you, that will get reversed. Like, you will lose if the jury rules on that. It was crazy to hear because the judge was basically saying the jury might actually convict Kyle wrongly,
right?
Which could happen. And then it made me realize they'd have been way better off with a bench trial. But I guess they didn't know. You never know if you're going to get a good judge or an ideologue.
Sure.
In this instance, they actually got a good judge. He's just, like you were saying, like the decorum, the regalia. He really wants to prove America works, which he can't do.
I think we can actually go down another layer in philosophy here. So I'm going to go put on my be a philosopher hat and talk about how we think about cultures. And so what the judge is thinking is that both the prosecution and the defense have the same goal in mind, that justice be sought out. Right? That both parties, both the defense and the prosecution, are coming to the court. Both of them are looking at something that they believe is called justice, and they want to see justice enacted. The problem is that's not the case. They don't both have the same objective. The defense and the judge want to see justice completed. The defense believes that, or justice enacted, the defense believes that it would be just for Kyle to be acquitted on a self-defense charge, which is a very important thing if you think that you're a human being, because what the prosecution wants and what the media attached to it, whatever, what the prosecution wants is that if you use force even in self-defense against our ideologues, we have the right to prosecute you. That it is not a combination of, this is not a court case, this is a movie script. When Steven Crowder said that this is a landmark moment when Kyle Rittenhouse was breaking down on the screen, that was an emotional scenario for a lot of people. Do I like emotional arguments? No. I'm supposed to be the philosopher, the cold, calculated whatever. But the issue that comes down to this conversation is that when Kyle Rittenhouse is now on trial, being prosecuted by a prosecutor who is overtly lying, deceiving, cheating, playing dirty at the game, we now see that no, the prosecutor and the people who are against Kyle Rittenhouse do not want to see justice. They want to see power.
They just want a victory.
They don't want a victory. That will be a symbolic victory for them, which says, at any given point where we decide that anything that you do is arbitrarily racist, we can light your city on fire, we can terrorize your civilians, we can go after your people, we can colonize your city with our neo-fascist ideology, and then if you fight back, we see ourselves as morally justified at stringing you out in as much pain as possible.
I was talking to a leftist friend of mine today who said he was hoping that the state would align on this one and, basically stop the reactionaries. And I was like, what do you mean reactionary? And he's like, the people that are trying to rewind civil rights. And then I was like, oh, you're talking about Antifa and Black Lives Matter. And he was like, no, I'm talking about Kyle Rittenhouse. I was like, but Kyle Rittenhouse was there helping the protesters. And he was like, that's not true. And I was like, there's videos of him giving medical assistance to protesters. So he is literally helping them achieve their goal when they're out there protesting. That's a fact. Rittenhouse was helping the rioters. Yep. That's true. And I don't think it has a bearing on a self-defense case or him as a kid. I think he was a good kid trying to do good, because it's like when you look at the, I'll throw it to Vosh, who makes the Marvel movie comparison about like the good guy puts their gun down. Well, the good guy helps even the bad guys. And Kyle Rittenhouse was there just to help people, be it stop fires, protect businesses, and make sure people who got hurt, regardless of who they were being cared for.
Sure. All right. So I'm going to go put some people in a cattle car. Do you want to help make sure none of them get away? Or, if I sprain my ankle, you help me out too?
Look, the point I'm trying to make is that Kyle Rittenhouse didn't go there as a reactionary. He didn't go there as someone who says, I have to stop Black Lives Matter. He went there as, I want to make sure people are safe. So that could be seen as being revolutionary if he's helping revolutionaries, right? The idea that the leftists perceive this the way they perceive Kyle it's insane. They didn't watch the trial. They didn't watch any of the videos. They just think that he's far right and hates social justice or whatever.
Yeah. Well, there's also an element of the quote Boogaloo Boys or people who are part of armed groups who are supporters of Black Lives Matter, who came out and said that they're here with the protesters, that they don't like the police, they don't like the government, and they want to stand with the protesters, but guard some private businesses. So there is an element of this that was there before, that was something that is worth considering and not denying.
Yeah, so I'm from Minneapolis, right? And I live in Minneapolis while Minneapolis is going through the great riots of 2020. So it was a wonderful experience. And what did we see happen? Yes, everyone took to the streets during the day. Was there massive protests? Yes. Were they very large orchestrated pomp and circumstance events? Perhaps. You can make your criticism whatever. But when it got dark at night, people did look out. They wanted to look out for each other to at least some extent. And suddenly this very broad blending of people, where some people were out in the streets literally to cause chaos and mayhem. Their whole purpose was just to find, damage, burn, destroy, loot. And that is still going on, in case people keep forgetting. But the issue that happened then is you had an entire other support element of people that basically said, here's our solidarity because we think your motive is correct. Stay off my lawn. You don't burn down my house. Don't attack my business. And it got very muddy very quickly. However, there were differences in people who were there to help and there to hurt.
I actually had an idea earlier, somewhat in a similar vein, San Francisco and the crime, and they're not prosecuting if you steal under a certain amount. And I was like, I'm going to open a bodega, like a little corner store. Every item costs $2,000. But you get $1,995 off when purchasing with a credit or debit card.
That's a good idea.
So now when they come in and start shoveling everything in their bag, it's like, that's $50,000 worth of beans, bro. And he's going to be like, it's just like, you know, a couple cans
10
of beans.
cans of beans.
Yeah, 10. Well, that would be like 25 cans of beans. Or
No, see,
With inflation, that's going to happen anyway.
Yeah, that'll happen anyway, and then they'll arrest you for price gouging, right?
They do that in Venezuela.
That's right.
Yep.
So,
I have
but
to be
imagine
honest.
a guy like he grabs one can of beans and runs out. I'm like, that's $2,000.
Yeah.
It says on it $2,000.
The-
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to watch live, you can check out this channel Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, and if you want more unfiltered and uncensored content with all of these guests, go to timcast.com and become a member. All of these guests you know and love in exclusive segments on our website where we are unrestricted in what we talk about, so you'll definitely not want to miss it. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you all next time.